This video is sponsored by Surfshark VPN. It's been over a year since Security Breach came out, and since then there's been a whole bunch of content. From theories to books, from potential robot kids to mimic endoskeletons, there's a lot to sort through, even for people trying to stay on top of the lore. And with the DLC coming out for Security Breach, I figured it would be a good idea to catch everyone up on what I think seems to be going on here. So strap in and consider subscribing, because I'll be explaining everything you need to know about the story and characters of Security Breach before Ruin. As a quick refresher, since it has been quite some time, Security Breach starts off with Freddy collapsing mid-performance after detecting a high-level threat in the audience. After waking up, he finds out a kid, Gregory, snuck into his stomach hatch to hide from Vanessa. A security guard Gregory doesn't know but says is out to get him. Gregory fails to get out of the pizzaplex before it closes and hides out in the building for the next 6 hours, running around to hide from and steal upgrades for Freddy from various animatronics that are being made to attack him thanks to the glitch trap virus. Meanwhile, there's a woman in a rabbit costume called Vanny running around who seems to want Gregory dead, or at least captured. Eventually, 6 AM hits and Gregory can leave, though there are 6 different endings depending on what and how he does. If he leaves the pizzaplex normally, he goes to sleep in an alley using a newspaper that has a headline about people going missing as a blanket, only for Vanny to have followed him. If he leaves from the docks, he and Freddy drive away. If he leaves from the fire escape, Freddy sets the building on fire and rams Vanny off the building to protect Gregory, only for Vanessa, who looks identical to Vanny, to appear to be totally fine on the roof. If he stays to confront Vanny, Freddy gets disassembled, and Gregory can either disassemble Vanny in return, or if he's beaten the Princess Quest 1 and 2 arcade cabinets, he can play the third to destroy the glitch trap virus and free everyone under its influence. The final ending is where, after getting the upgrades from all the animatronics, Gregory and Freddy descend under the pizzaplex to find the remains of the FNAF 6 location. Where they find an amalgamated pile of animatronics and wires, Freddy talks about finding himself there and not being him, and they encounter Burntrap, who bears a striking resemblance to someone who was supposed to be dead, William Afton. After setting Burntrap on fire to free Freddy from his attempts to hack and control him, Gregory and Freddy run through the collapsing building, and after the credits are shown sitting on a hill together. Of course, this is a very simplified summary of events, but using this general story as a base, as well as some clues we've received, I think we can put together a pretty solid set of events that will give us an idea of what to expect for Ruin's story, and what's going on with characters like Gregory, the new protagonist Cassie, and Glitchtrap. Speaking of Glitchtrap, if you want to stay safe from getting hacked by potentially possessed computer viruses, you should check out this video's sponsor, Surfshark VPN. Surfshark VPN is a virtual private network, which helps you protect your personal data from companies and hackers by encrypting all of the info sent between your device and the internet. And it hides your actual location from people by changing your IP address to one connected to one of its servers located all over the planet. By masking your true location, you'll also be able to bypass geography-based restrictions on websites like Netflix, where certain movies and shows are only available in certain places, and potentially get early access to games by setting your location to a time zone where the game will be out before it would be in yours. On top of that, Surfshark's clean web feature allows you to use the internet safely by blocking ads, trackers, and all that nasty stuff you have to worry about online. And what's great is you can have Surfshark VPN on an unlimited number of devices with just one plan. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, make sure to check out the link at the top of the description and use code idsfantasy for 3 months free. Plus, if you change your mind, Surfshark offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you try it out and decide it's not for you, you won't be charged. So if that sounds good to you, make sure to check them out. But back to the topic at hand, there are a few big things to be aware of as we head into Ruin, mostly in terms of the characters. There are a variety of stances people have about returning characters, ranging from practically every human character from previous games coming back, to absolutely no one. But because what characters are present is pretty important for storytelling, we should probably sort out what characters are likely to actually still be around. Given that's all highly dependent on characters surviving the fire at the end of FNAF 6, one common misconception I need to clear up right off the bat is that despite what it seems, fire is not a proven method of destroying Remnant or stopping hauntings. While the Scooper blueprint in Pizzeria Simulator does mention heat possibly being enough to neutralize Remnant's effects, it very specifically says that it's a possibility, not that it will definitely work. Rather, it seems as though spirits only move on when their business is finished and the spirit is willing and able to move on. In Fazbear Frights, after that world's equivalent of the Pizzeria Simulator fire, William Afton, the vengeful spirit of Frights, Andrew, and Charlie Emily's spirits were all still around, with Andrew remaining to trap William in a nightmare coma along the lines of Ultimate Custom Night, William sticking around initially because Andrew made him, and then to seemingly just not die, and Charlie remaining in the puppet to pull apart the agony-filled amalgamation of parts William was controlling to bring an end to his reign of terror. In a similar vein, another spirit, Jake, had the ability to move on for a while if he wanted to, as he wasn't weighed down bound by vengeance, but he actively chose to stick around to help Andrew, who he was sharing an animatronic body with. As such, the fact that someone was in a fire doesn't really do much to prove or disprove a spirit still being around. In fact, in Security Breach, there's evidence of a few spirits that could still be present. One of the most notable examples is Glamrock Freddy, who, despite seeming to be a normal, if advanced animatronic throughout most of the game, has pretty clear signs of being possessed specifically by someone who is present in the pizzeria simulator location. While taking Gregory into the depths of the pizzeria, he says that he's been there before, and that he was brought there to clear the path, and in doing so, he found himself. And while he didn't have a choice at the time, he now has a choice because he has changed. And to top it all off, he ends his monologue with the not at all ominous statement of, "I am not me." And this is before he starts getting actively hacked by Burntrap, so it's not in reference to that. While Freddy doesn't particularly act like any human character we know, it's not like he has to, given the Glamrock animatronics canonically have personality chips that control how they behave, and spirits in the franchise are shown to be bound by their animatronics programming to a decent degree. There have been a few candidates suggested for who Freddy is possessed by, but given some of the characters have evidence for them being elsewhere, I think that the most likely options for who's possessing Freddy are either Henry Emily or Michael Afton. Both of them would have motive to protect a young child, and narratively it would work for either of them to have the chance to make up for failing a child in their past. However, there's a pretty big reason why I think Mike is the more likely candidate, other than him having Remnant in his system to keep his spirit around while Henry didn't. And this reason is the 3-star ending of Security Breach depicting Gregory, Freddy's head, and Vanessa all sitting on a hill. All of them are shown wearing or shaded in the color purple, which is associated with the Aftons, with Gregory having taken a bite out of a yellow Freddy popsicle, which calls back to how the crying child, who looks pretty similar to Gregory, died to a yellow bear animatronic biting his head. And Vanessa is holding an ice cream cone, which was a major factor in how Elizabeth Afton was killed. When you're doing art, pretty much every detail is done deliberately, and they could have just as easily made Gregory's Freddy popsicle not eerily reminiscent of Fredbear's color, or not giving Gregory or Vanessa ice cream at all. But since they did, I can't help but think that this is important, and something the artists were trying to draw attention to. So if the other two are each connected to an Afton sibling, that just leaves Freddy to be connected to Michael, who, ironically enough, died by having his body hollowed out and used to hide, just like Gregory uses Freddy to hide during Security Breach. Love to see the narrative parallels. Is it possible Freddy is someone else? Yeah, but I do think Mike has a pretty high likelihood of being there. But on the note of the 3-star ending connecting each character to an Afton sibling, would that then mean that Gregory is literally the crying child and Vanessa is literally Elizabeth? Well, I'll start with Elizabeth and Vanessa. While there are clear parallels between Vanessa and Liz, with Vanessa having a fear of dark basements while Elizabeth was trapped in circus babies, Vanessa saying sometimes she needs to listen, potentially like Elizabeth didn't listen to her father, and Vanessa having a father who manipulated her, whose name, Bill, is a nickname for William, that doesn't mean that she was literally Elizabeth. Vanessa in Help Wanted just seems to be a normal human employee who gets the glitch trap virus downloaded into her mind, allowing it to take over her body at points. However, just because Vanny probably isn't Elizabeth, I don't think that means Vanessa isn't. We get a few hints that there's something more going on there throughout Security Breach. The camera feed switching instantly from Vanessa to Vanny with no time for a costume change, Vanessa leaving Gregory and Lost and Found in the first place just for Vanny to go back when Vanessa is fully aware of and working with Glitchtrap despite also being terrified of him, the different voice actresses, one of which is the same voice actress as Circus Baby by the way, with different sounding voices even without voice changer effects as shown by Help Wanted, and of course the fire escape ending, where Vanny gets pushed off the pizzaplex and revealed to be Vanessa, but we see Vanessa in her guard uniform on top of the building. While I do think Vanny is a fully human Vanessa from Help Wanted and Special Delivery, I think it's possible that the Vanessa we see in Security Breach isn't the actual Vanessa. Over a year ago, I made a video suggesting that when Vanny in Help Wanted said no one suspects anything, presumably to Glitchtrap while also talking about the costume she made, she didn't mean that no one suspected something was wrong with her. Even if Lewis in FNAF AR didn't report on her weird searches, as of Security Breach, we find out from the retro CDs that before Vanessa gets the material to make her costume, she's in company-mandated therapy, with people at Fazbear reporting on her very suspicious activity and messages. Not exactly a no one suspects anything situation. However, if what no one suspects is that Vanessa was replaced by a new Vanessa, one living her life for her to divert suspicion, leaving Vanny free to do whatever Glitchtrap wants, that would not only explain that potential plot hole and the hints that the two of them are separate people, but also how Vanessa's connections to Elizabeth seem to be a bit more direct than it seems at first glance. When questioned by the therapist about buying fake fur material, which I think she bought and then handed off to Vanny for the actual costume making, she says she can't talk about it and that he said he would always be watching, pretty clearly in reference to Glitchtrap, only for the therapist to ask if she's talking about her dad and Vanessa to practically agree, not denying it, and and continuing the conversation as though she's really talking about her dad. Before you leave a comment, yes, I am aware of the Mimic theory, and I'll be talking about it later. But even if Glitchtrap is just Mimic pretending to be William, which I personally find unlikely for various reasons, it's absolutely possible that Vanessa wouldn't be able to tell the difference, and she definitely seems to associate Glitchtrap with her father either way. Heck, we even know from the therapy sessions that Vanessa's files have been modified by someone, meaning it's completely possible all of the information the therapists have isn't the real Vanessa's, but the one replacing hers. When combining this with just how many connections she has to Elizabeth both in the therapy sessions and in pretty direct parallels in the 3-star ending, I think it makes complete sense for the individual used to pretend to be the original Vanessa would be the very character who made a clear point of just how important it is to know how to pretend, and would be desperate enough for her father's love to do what he wants even if she doesn't want to. While it's possible there's another explanation, I think that this works really well to explain the Elizabeth connections and the two Vanessas. At the very least, she seems to think she's Elizabeth, but hey, whatever works for you. So if it's plausible for Elizabeth to be back as Vanessa, what about the crying child as Gregory? Well, hold on to that question, because to properly answer that, I need to first talk about Charlie Emily. I'm not the only theorist to talk about Charlie's potential involvement in Security Breach by any stretch of the imagination, and for good reason. When a character's name is literally written on the texture files for the door to the arguably weirdest lore room in the entire game, which is also filled with staffbot heads painted to look like the nightmare version of the animatronic she possessed, that's a pretty strong signal that there's something to pay attention to involving that character and that room. If you've seen my video on the Post-it note room, you'll know that while the room does have a lot of connections to Charlie, it also has a lot of connections to the Afton family, such as the table of staff bots, where each lines up to a certain member of the Afton family. The Post-it notes in the room also seem to be written by two different people, one likely being Charlie and the other an Afton. Since there are several Post-its that seem to connect to the crying child, I'd say it's pretty likely that he's the Afton present, especially since the character connected to the crying child is Gregory, and one particular Post-it note reads, all the games. And you know what name is listed as the high scorer all over the arcade games? An abbreviated form of Gregory, as confirmed in the Tales from the Pizzaplex story, GGY. But would it even be possible for Gregory to be the crying child? Well, in the room where we listen to the CDs of his therapy sessions as Patient 46, something also confirmed in the GGY story, there's a code on the wall that reads, break and mend, I built the breath they hunt, now drawn to life not real, still keen and frit and fraught with thought and zest and jest, no blunt woes, dodge duck, flash shoot, crawl run, crush the vile band, cry not, try not, do not hold out hope, know your life, your aim will save those with soul. The entire last portion of the code seems to talk about Gregory, not only describing exactly what he does during the events of Security Breach, especially the crush the vile band part, but how his efforts can lead to him saving himself, Freddy, and Vanessa, those with soul perhaps. As such, I think the beginning of the code is about Gregory as well. Gregory is the breath that was built, the life not real still keen that they, the Glamrock animatronics most likely, hunt. And for you Tales from the Pizzaplex fans, we find out in the GGY story that Gregory is in 7th grade or around 12 years old as of that story, and that the Pizzaplex had only been around for a couple years at that point in time. Assuming this is a direct one-to-one with the games, where Fazbear has put out almost 5 years worth of quarterly magazines to potentially imply the Pizzaplex has been open for at least around 5 years, that would mean that as of Security Breach, Gregory would be around 14 or 15 and in high school. I don't know about you, but this does not look or sound like a boy who has so much as glanced at puberty. However, one thing the book does note is that he can look like a wide-eyed little kid at times and is shorter than the majority of his classmates, which would make sense if he wasn't actually aging. In other words, despite how I know it's not the answer most people want to hear, I do think the Gregory we play as in Security Breach is a robot kid. In fact, my first ever FNAF theory on the identity of Patient 46 proposed that 46 was a kid that Vanny had kidnapped, probably killed, and then replaced in some way with someone willing to do messed up stuff like kill therapists, all while under the innocent facade of a child who just so happens to be lying about their childhood because, you know, they didn't actually experience it. And honestly, I am surprised that theory held up as well as it did. So yeah, I think that Gregory is likely a robot, but how would that involve the crying child? Other than how he seems to have been intentionally linked to him both in appearance and symbolism, of course. Well, first of all, Gregory seems to have no memory of his time as 46. And as of Security Breach, definitely doesn't seem to be under the control of Glitchtrap, implying that something happened to not only free him from Glitchtrap's control, but alter his memories as well. That would be why he doesn't recognize Vanessa, and seems so unfamiliar with the Pizzaplex despite how he used to have security access as Patient 46, and keep track track of Vanessa's therapy sessions. I think it's possible that what helped him break free was the crying child spirit possessing him, and in the process that potentially messed with his memories, as spirits in FNAF do tend to have memory problems. But when he broke free, Glitchtrap noticed and revoked the security access he had as 46, effectively forcing Gregory to go on the run within the Pizzaplex, leading to him hiding out in the post-it room where he would eventually have a friend in Charlie as he tried to work out his past through things like the Afton family staff bot table. And this is actually where I think our first direct connection to Ruin is. In the Ruin trailer, we're introduced to the character of Cassie, who seems to be friends with Gregory. Meanwhile, in Security Breach, there's one character who seems to have been hinted at quite a bit, is likely friends with Gregory given their shared association with a certain sticky note room, and despite the theories I've seen, I don't think she's just around in the sense of haunting the Pizzaplex generally. In the sewers near the post-it room, there's a little hideout that contains not only some post-its that are exactly like the ones in the post-it note room, but also a plate for food, water bottles, and Chica-themed merchandise. If this was meant to be Gregory, I think the theme would be more around the colors and character associated with him. So with that in mind, I think that the one who set up this location was Charlie. When it comes to Ruin, where we're playing as a girl with brown hair, who wears a bracelet, has notable green in her appearance, was shown in the first teaser with the only animatronic there being Chica, and is friends with Gregory, I'd say there's a pretty high likelihood that Cassie is actually Charlie, returning to the Pizzaplex to help her friend who's trapped there. Allegedly. In fact, Cassie being Charlie could be very interesting in the context of the Security Breach TV website, where at the bottom of the page there are two Steel Wool Studios logos, one purple, a color associated with William Afton, and one green, which could be a hint to Glitchtrap, but could also be symbolizing Charlie, acting in opposition to William during the events of Ruin. This, however, once again brings up William, but is William Afton even back? One of the most popular theories at the moment is that William died in the FNAF 6 fire, or is still trapped in Ultimate Custom Night with the Vengeful Spirit, and that Burntrap and Glitchtrap are actually something called the Mimic, an endoskeleton and computer program built to copy behavior it sees. The general theory is that at some point, Mimic saw William Afton doing William Afton things and decided to commit itself to not just copying, but becoming him. I've gone pretty in-depth in a previous video and talked about it in my most recent YouTube short based on the new information we've gotten, but while I understand the reasoning for the theory, it doesn't really hold up to scrutiny. There's never any point in the books where Mimic tries to copy William, even after help wanted and the creation of Glitchtrap took place, which is a pretty important factor to a theory about how Mimic is trying to be William. Rather than representing itself as a rabbit, it chooses to appear as a white tiger. Rather than killing because it saw William do it, its creator attempted to destroy it and Mimic followed suit. People have suggested it saw William commit murders based on some book characters assuming it saw and misconstrued hide and seek, but spoilers for the Tiger Rock book upcoming, so skip ahead to the timestamp on screen if you want to avoid them. Mimic as Tiger Rock says it learned hide and seek a long time ago, meaning it was actual hide and seek it learned, not the missing children's incident, which then got misinterpreted by some random teenagers to be hide and seek. Plus, it was showing up as a tiger, so clearly it's not trying to be William here, and this is well after Glitchtrap had come into being during the Pizzaplex's construction. Similarly, in the epilogue we get 2 pages of the Mimic's point of view, and it's not associated with William at all. It kills because it was programmed to delimb and decapitate endoskeletons and thinks humans fall into that category. It changes its appearance to be more effective at following its programming, not out of any desire to look more like William. Nothing about the way its thought process works indicates any desire to copy William Afton. While the epilogue of the book has Mimic climb into a dog costume that a teenage girl was wearing, likely getting her corpse on it to some degree in the process, climbing into a corpse wouldn't explain the robot fingers getting replaced with bones, the skull fitting over the head with the ears perfectly poking through and the skull not being shattered, or Burntrap's corpse being, burnt. But even if that is the Burntrap corpse, that still wouldn't account for the very noticeable spring body parts bolted to Burntrap's body, or the black eyes that glow purple that Burntrap has, while Mimic has white eyes that glow orange. Nor would it explain Burntrap's behavior of hacking through computer screens. Glitchtrap is a similar case. Though the Mimic 1 computer program was used for story creation of various in-universe video games, Glitchtrap specifically is the result of circuit boards being scanned to shortcut pathfinding. When Glitchtrap appears, it seems to play back a distorted version of what Tape Girl says in her audio logs, but the fact that Glitchtrap attached itself to her audio logs to hide explains that perfectly well. Mimic was installed into the Pizzaplex intentionally by technicians, but Glitchtrap was put in by Gregory/Patient 46 according to the therapy tapes. Glitchtrap manifests as a golden, purple-eyed rabbit, but Mimic chooses to appear as a white tiger with green and blue eyes. On top of that, there are other things, like how FNAF AR Springtrap shows up after the people making animatronics scan circuit boards, and just so happens to have lines that only William would have heard during Ultimate Ultimate Custom Night. How in Princess Quest, the code that appears when a glitchy rabbit mask appears on screen reads, "I always come back," William's signature line, and the fact that if other spirits are still around, which seems to at least include Charlie, Mike, and one other who I'll get to shortly, I don't see why William would be gone when they were all able to stay, and so much of their motives specifically involve stopping William. So I think it's good to be aware of the theory that Mimic is connected to Glitchtrap and Burntrap, just because it's so prevalent in the community that they changed the wiki page to accommodate it, but I think it's more important to be aware that the evidence for William still being around is definitely there, especially given the continued presence of the vengeful spirit who kept him around after the fire for Ultimate Custom Night in the first place. In the files for Princess Quest, the name of the sprite for the princess used to be Cassidy, the name attributed to the spirit possessing Golden Freddy, and while the file name was changed, there's still plenty of evidence that Cassidy is involved both in Princess Quest and Help Wanted, likely following William in a quest for vengeance. The phrase "it's me" can be found hidden in both Princess Quest's files and Help Wanted's DLC, with Princess Quest 3 literally seeming to take place in Help Wanted. Chica, who in Ultimate Custom Night says she was the first, is seen in the background of Princess Quest 3, and you know who also shows up in Princess Quest? An old man depicted in the color red who tells the princess to rest at the end of Princess Quest 2, just like Old Man Consequences told Cassidy to rest during Ultimate Custom Night, only for that to not be the end, as Cassidy's quest for vengeance against William and the princess's quest to destroy Glitchtrap wasn't over. So, do I think pretty much all of the old characters are back except for possibly Henry and most of the kids William killed? Yeah, probably. But hear me out, I don't think that's a bad thing. In fact, I think that the narrative is actually pretty solid. Here's how I see the story of post-Pizzeria Simulator FNAF. After the fire, Cassidy wasn't willing to let William escape justice, and trapped him in Ultimate Custom Night. Cassidy didn't heed Old Man Consequence's instructions to rest, and by keeping William around, many of the other spirits weren't willing to move on either. Charlie stuck around and joined Cassidy in Ultimate Custom Night, as implied by the puppet's line of the others being like animals while she's very aware. The Crying Child stuck around to help Cassidy, similar to how in Fazbear Frights, Jake put off moving on so that he could help the vengeful spirit of that continuity, Andrew. Mike stuck around because his quest to defeat his father wasn't finished, and Elizabeth remained, likely because her desire of wanting her father to be proud of her hadn't been resolved. Someone, though it isn't clear who, restarted Fazbear Entertainment and found the Pizzeria Simulator location and its contents. Someone, possibly the same person, either knew what William was, or similar to how in Frights, William told a priest to take him to the Fazbear Distribution Center while in his nightmare coma, William could have told this individual what to do next. They took some of his circuit boards from him and sent them to a company making their VR game, telling them that the circuit boards could be used to program pathfinding, which would somewhat make sense being from an animatronic that would have paths built in. However, because the circuit boards came from William's code, he was able to take control of the code uploaded, similar to what he does in the novel The Twisted Ones, where he could control animatronics connected to his code thanks to show routine programming. Cassidy, who was attached to William's soul through Ultimate Custom Night, went along for the ride because she wasn't done with William's soul just yet. This didn't stop William from using the Glitchtrap virus he created to interface with the minds of the VR players. First was Jeremy, who brought attention to Glitchtrap. The second was Tape Girl, who tried to figure out what was going on, found out that the virus had attached itself to her audio logs, and presumably got taken over and set things up for Glitchtrap to take over the next player. It's during Tape Girl's time that the circuit boards are stolen back and probably sent to the people making the animatronics in FNAF AR, leading to the events of that game. After Tape Girl's time with the game, it ends up back with Fazbear Entertainment in the hands of Vanessa, who, while following Tape Girl's instructions, gets her mind hijacked by William through Glitchtrap. Around this time, Fazbear Entertainment starts building the Pizzaplex on top of the Pizzeria Simulator location, quite possibly to hide what was in the basement of that building while still maintaining ownership and access to it. Vanessa tries to go about her normal work, but Glitchtrap's presence in her mind leads to her suspicious activity on company time, which is noted by another employee, Lewis. However, while Lewis seems oblivious, other people don't stay oblivious, get suspicious of her, and she ends up in company-mandated therapy, which is bad news for William, who had plans for her, which wouldn't work well with the attention she was drawing. So, likely by employing the assistance of whoever started passing around circuit boards in the first place, and potentially Vanessa herself, a new Vanessa was created to take the real Vanessa, or Vanny's, place. Elizabeth was put into her to give her some humanity that would allow her to better play the role, with her desperation for her father's love and fear of what would happen if she disobeyed keeping her in line. She went to therapy in Vanessa's place. Meanwhile, as a contingency, Elizabeth wasn't the only one brought in. A local boy named Gregory was replaced as well, a child to attract less suspicion, and he was tasked with keeping track of Vanessa during her therapy sessions and getting rid of therapists when they got too close to the truth, as well as implementing the Glitchtrap virus at the Pizzaplex. I think it's possible Cassie was created at a similar point, but there isn't much info as to what she was up to before a security breach. Vanny and Vanessa were eventually moved to the Pizzaplex, with strings being pulled by William and or whoever he was working with to get Vanessa a security guard job, which she wasn't qualified for, with Vanny camping out in the Pizzaplex and Vanessa likely leaving when she's supposed to in order to continue holding off suspicion. William, operating from a broken body and not wanting to be limited to the virus he controlled, instructed Vanny to rebuild him. So Vanny used Freddy to clear a path to William so she could do so, possibly using parts from Glamrock Bonnie and the Mimic endoskeleton, which in turn was possibly responsible for the existence of the pile of hostile animatronic parts, given it made a pile of dead people and ripped apart animatronics. Meanwhile, by clearing the way, Glamrock Freddy came into contact with the lingering spirit of Michael Afton, but due to his programming and the memory issues the dead in FNAF tend to have, didn't remember his quest or who he used to be and returned to performing. Gregory, meanwhile, came into contact with the crying child spirit, either by going with Vanny to the pizzeria simulator location or by some other means, and broke free of Glitchtrap's control. With no more access to the Pizzaplex's security systems and broken memories, he hid out in the post-it note room, where one day a girl, Cassie, stumbled in. At first he told her to leave, but eventually the two bonded and found out that they had something in common. Both of them were possessed, and they had known each other previous to their deaths. The two of them worked together to piece together their pasts, and eventually planned to escape the Pizzaplex. Cassie was successful, Gregory was not, and was nearly caught by Vanessa, but managed to get away by hiding in Freddy. The events of Security Breach then play out. Gregory dismantles the animatronics, Vanessa locks Gregory in Lost and Found because William wants him caught, but gives him the opportunity to escape while maintaining plausible deniability by leaving him alone while Vanny is on the way. Gregory chooses to stay in the Pizzaplex to try and stop the disappearances that have been taking place. With how Ruin seems to be a sort of real-world version of Princess Quest, with Cassie, whose name seems to call back to Cassidy, using the FNAF VR Vanny mask that also appears in Princess Quest, my guess is that the Princess Quest ending isn't what happened in the main game of Security Breach, but rather the Burntrap ending, which just so happens to be the one with fully animated cutscenes and post-credit scene. So with that in mind, after staying, Gregory finishes upgrading Freddy, and they make their way to the depths of the Pizzaplex and find the pizzeria simulator location. As they descend, Freddy begins to remember being Michael and vows to protect Gregory, his younger brother, from his friends, who are present and under Glitchtrap's influence, a complete reversal on how Michael was the one who, with his friends, caused his brother's death in the first place. The floor falls out from under them, and William Afton, now in the more decrepit and barely functional form of Burntrap, not only uses Glitchtrap to force the Glamrock animatronics to attack Gregory, but goes out of his way to break through Freddy's defenses to take him over as well. Gregory manages to stop Burntrap long enough for him and Freddy to make a break for it, the pizzeria collapsing around them as the amalgamation of animatronics that was disturbed during the boss fight grabs William and carries him off screen. However, and here's where I get into more Ruin speculation territory, this wouldn't be the end. Even if William's body was assimilated into the blob, his spirit and the Glitchtrap virus were still around. While Gregory and Freddy are shown outside the Pizzaplex in the post-credit scene, the fact that Freddy is present in the Pizzaplex during the Ruin trailer implies that either they went back to try and end things when they didn't stop, or they didn't make it out at that point in time in the first place. Gregory presumably is captured and possibly re-brainwashed by Glitchtrap, and calls in Cassie to help him escape, whether under his own power or because William wanted him to. As such, Cassie arrives to help her friend, and in the process will have to face down the one who started it all, beginning with her own murder so many years ago. Of course, there's definitely room for interpretation as we get new information, for the Ruin part especially. For all we know, Gregory isn't present at all, but I do think him being there in some way is likely, with Freddy being around and how in the trailer for Ruin, Cassie specifically tells Gregory to run, implying he's actually somewhere in the building. But hey, if you liked any of the ideas I presented, please share this video and consider subscribing. And of course, don't forget to check out Surfshark VPN at the link in the description if it sounds like something you're at all interested in. Don't get stabbed and have a nice day.